everybody, Miss Jessie here over at the Townsend Public Library. Thank you so much for joining me again for another fun story time and craft. Today we are doing one of my most favorite stories, and it's perfect for the fall, and it's called Fletcher and the Falling Leaves. Now Fletcher thinks that there is something wrong with one of his most favorite trees. Let's see what happens. Fletcher and the Falling Leaves by Julia Rawlinson, and the pictures, which is by Tiffany Beek. So she is the illustrator. Here we go. Fletcher and the Falling Leaves. The world was changing. Each morning when Fletcher bounded out of the den, everything seemed just a little bit different. The rich green of the forest was turning to a dusty gold, and the soft swishing sound of summer was fading to a crinkly whisper. Fletcher's favorite tree looked dull, dry, and brown. Fletcher was beginning to get worried. "I think my tree is sick," said Fletcher. "What's wrong with it?" his mother asked. "Its leaves are turning brown," said Fletcher. "Oh, don't worry. It's only autumn," she said. Fletcher ran back to his tree and patted the rough bark. "Don't worry, tree. It's only autumn," he said. "You'll be feeling better soon." I don't know if Fletcher really knows what autumn means, though, so I think that he thinks the tree just has a cold or is sick. But the tree didn't get better. Each day, more leaves turned brown. One morning, the wind blew a small brown leaf off of the branch. Fletcher jumped up and caught it very gently in his paw. "Don't worry, tree. I've got your leaf. I'll fix you." Fletcher looked around, picked a piece of grass, and carefully tied it to the branch. Just then, another gust of wind ruffled Fletcher's fur. The little leaf shook itself free and fluttered back down to the ground. Fletcher picked it up again and thought very hard. Then he poked the leaf onto a twig and pushed it down firmly. "Now you hold on tight," said Fletcher. "No more flying around." The little leaf gave a tiny rustle in reply. The next day, a strong wind was blowing through the forest. Fletcher rushed out to the den and ran all the way to its tree. Lots of branches were bare, and the little lost leaves spun everywhere. "Don't worry, tree. I'll catch them for you, I promise." Round and round and round whirled Fletcher after the swirling leaves. Fletcher is still so worried that something is wrong with his favorite tree. "Leaves! Wonderful! Just what I need for my nest," said a squirrel. But those belong to the tree," said Fletcher. "Don't take them away." "The tree doesn't need them anymore," said the squirrel, bounding off. "Help! Help! The wind and the squirrel are stealing our leaves," cried Fletcher. Now someone else is excited about the falling leaves. "Leaves, terrific! Just what I need to keep warm," says a porcupine rolling around. "But those belong to the tree," said Fletcher, plucking leaves from the porcupine's needles. "Not anymore," scoffed the porcupine, and away he rolled. "Help! Help! The wind, the squirrel, and the porcupine are stealing our leaves," cried Fletcher. Suddenly, a flock of friendly birds swooped down from the sky. They picked up the leaves in their beaks and poked them into the tree's branches. Soon the tree was leafy again, and Fletcher flopped down and smiled. Thank you, birds, he gasped at the birds as they fluttered away. He lay looking up through the leaves at the sky and drifted off to sleep. But the wind continued to blow, and the branches still danced. The leaves shivered and shook themselves and began to wriggle free. They tossed and turned and twitched and twirled and tumbled to the ground. They brushed Fletcher's ears and nose and filled his dreams with a whispering sound. When Fletcher finally woke up, he couldn't believe his eyes. Instead of a roof of dancing leaves, all he could see were bare branches against the sky. "Oh, tree, I'm so sorry," gulped Fletcher. "All your leaves are gone." But then he saw high in the branches one small leaf still holding on. "I won't let the wind steal that one," said Fletcher, and he began to climb. He crawled along to the last leaf and held it firmly onto its branch. All day long the wind blew, the branch bounced, and Fletcher held on tight. "I'll stay with you, leaf," he said. "Don't worry." But then, with a sudden whoosh of wind, the branch bounced high. With a plip, the leaf let go and fluttered like a little flag clutched in Fletcher's paw. So the leaf came off of the tree, but Fletcher's holding it tight. Fletcher looked sadly at the leaf he had promised to save. He carried it carefully down the tree and back to the den. He made a cozy little bed for it and gently tucked it in. But all night long, all he could think of was his tree, all alone. At dawn, Fletcher tiptoed outside. The wind had finally stopped blowing. The air was cold. The moon still hung in the clear sky, and pale stars glimmered. As he came to his favorite tree, Fletcher saw a magical sight. The tree was hung with 1,000 icicles, shining silver in the early light. "You are more beautiful than ever," whispered Fletcher. "But are you all right?" A tiny breeze shivered the branches, making a sound like laughter, and in the light of the rising sun, the sparkling branches nodded. Fletcher gave his tree a hug. Then he went back to the den for a nice, warm breakfast. The end. So Fletcher was so worried and so nervous about his favorite beautiful tree. He didn't understand that in the fall time, the leaves are supposed to fall from the trees. But at the very end, Fletcher's heart felt very happy. When he saw how beautiful the tree looked in the cold winter air with its glistening leaves that were full of frost. And then when he asked the tree if he was happy, the tree branches waved as if to say yes, and it was so sparkly that Fletcher's heart finally felt okay with what was happening to the tree. I just love that story. Okay, so now everybody should have their kits with them to make our own Fletchers. This is so exciting. So you have your kit, which is in your bag. We can start taking our supplies out. I was excited about this one because I feel as though recently we've been doing so much painting, which is awesome and so fun, but I wanted us to create art in a different way. So we are using yarn today. So in your bags, you'll find a triangle shape. Now I'm holding it upside down because this is going to be Fletcher's head. Also, you should have an envelope that I taped shut that has lots of little pieces in it. We can put that aside for right now because we don't need it just yet. You have some orange yarn, and this is going to be for his face. It may have gotten a little bit tangled in the bag, and that's okay. We'll be able to just gently unravel it so that it gets to a long string. And then we also have a white piece that we'll use for his snout where his nose is. Okay, so what you don't have in your kit that will be very helpful is either some tape and also a glue stick. Okay, so you might want to grab those things as well. So then once we're ready, I'm going to tilt my computer down so you can also see my table space. Okay, so here are all of my supplies. So we're going to start with the triangle. Now I actually made them out of a recycled box that the delivery man came with. So if your triangle has writing on it, you can choose that as the back of his head. My triangle that I'm using right now is plain, so I can just choose either side. I'm going to take the end of my string, of my yarn, and I'm just going to put it right on the back. And then with a piece of tape, we'll secure it to the back, just like this. So now you have your triangle in a long piece of orange yarn. So now we're just going to wrap. And you can wrap it around however you want. You can go in angles, or you can just go around. We're just making some of the shape orange. It's okay if the brown pokes through, because underneath their underneath their orange fur is some dark brown fur sometimes. So that's okay. And you just keep twirling around however you want to cover up that cardboard. Keep spinning and spinning, and see, it's starting to cover. Around and around and around. Now I'm leaving the bottom a little bit more brown because I'm going to use that keep that space for my white yarn. Just keep spinning and spinning. If you feel that your yarn is too long, you can always use scissors to trim it. Or just keep going till the very end, and then we're going to tape that loose piece to the back again. So I'm going to grab another piece of tape, tape it right on. So that's the back, and you can see all the tape. And then when I flip it forward, you just see my orange, and you can adjust it if you want and kind of slide it. So now, when you're all done with that, the next step is to do the same process with the white piece of yarn. So I'm going to flip it over to the back, and I have my white piece. And I'm going to put it down more towards the bottom, because again, I left the orange for like the top of his head, and then a lot of times a fox, if you were to see him, his snout has some white fur. So I'm going to grab a piece of tape, and I'm going to then tape the end so it's nice and secure on my shape again. And then just do the same thing again. Twirling and wrapping. I might even go up a little bit higher. And then down low. until I reach the end. And I'm going to get another piece of tape. Get a littler piece this time since it's kind of small at the end. Okay. Perfect. So it might take you a little bit more time, and that's okay. You can pause me if you need some extra time if I'm going too quick. So I did all of my orange, and I did a little bit of white. Now I'm going to bend you down because now I'm going to start to open up my white envelope and gather all my little pieces. Okay, so I'm putting my Fletcher, oops, I'm going to put my Fletcher, there we go, right there. And then here's my envelope, and I'm going to carefully open it and gather out these supplies. Inside, you're going to find a little black pom-pom. You're going to find 2 teeny tiny white triangles, and then 2 orange triangles that are a little bit bigger. We're going to use those to make his ears. And then 2 googly eyes. Okay, so we'll start with his ears. So you can grab your glue stick, if you had one handy, and with your orange shape, hold it down, and then just put a good dab of glue right on top of the orange. My glue is sticking on both of your orange shapes. Okay, and then your white triangles are going to go right in the middle, because a fox's ears sometimes have a little bit of lighter fur in the middle of them. I'll show you in our book. Do you see? There's Fletcher's ears, and they're orange and a little darker, and then in the middle, they're a little bit lighter. So that's why we used 2 pieces of paper. Then I'm going to flip over my shape, my Fletcher. Now you can either use tape to stick them on, or you can continue to use your glue, whatever you think works best. So then I'm going to flip it back. And I have 1 ear. And then his second ear. So now he has 2 ears, an orange face, and a white snout. Next, we'll put on his eyes. Now your eyes are stickers. So if you're feeling really brave and your fingers are feeling extra strong, you can just peel the backs off to put the eyes on. Or you might be saying, Miss Jessie, I have glue right here. You can just glue them. It's totally up to you. So there is my Fletcher so far. And you just have to kind of press them down pretty good so that they stick to that yarn, or even stick underneath to that cardboard. Okay, so now he has 2 ears, 2 eyes. Let's give him his little black nose. I'm going to use my glue for that. So ready, I'm just going to put you down, and I just put some glue right on the very tip. Some of it's going to get on the cardboard, and some is going to get on the yarn. And then take your pom-pom, give it a good little smush. And then there is your own Fletcher. Okay, so you have his eyes, and then if it needs to dry a little bit, that's okay. But I think it looks pretty close to the Fletcher in the story. Thank you so much for joining me for another Story Time and Craft, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!